So, welcome to the next episode of the 10 campaign, and this is social venture number 2. And I want to introduce you to Alex from Greater Change. Alex, do you want to introduce you first of all by telling us all what Greater Change is and what does it do?
Sure. So, hi, I'm Alex, and Greater Change is a social platform designed to help people who are experiencing homelessness permanently move out of homelessness. The way we do that is it's essentially that when people who are homeless are engaging with non-financial support, often there's really excellent non-financial support out there from partner charities and support workers at those partner charities. But quite often in the journey that someone takes to overcome or better manage those non-financial barriers to move on permanently, they also need to overcome a financial barrier. So rent deposit, skills course, identification documents, things like that. And Greater Change is essentially a method of members of the public funding whatever financial goal someone needs to move out of homelessness, so that they can take that next step and leave homelessness behind for good.
Cool. I mean, so I remember when everything first started, you had this launch video for a funding campaign because you, as I remember, you had I think you had the first campaign that went on a donation platform, or maybe the second one, Oxreach, and there was this video where you had a person who was walking with their mobile phone and there was a QR code or something like that. So do you want to explain how did it all start and sort of how did you get to this point?
Sure. So about 5 years ago now, I was volunteering with local homelessness charities in Oxford while doing my degree. And essentially, in terms of the way it started, I was working with a lot of people who were homeless as part of my volunteering, and a lot of support workers. And quite often what people were saying to me in terms of struggling to move forward is kind of what I was touching on before, that their support worker was able to give them a lot of help with their kind of non-financial stuff, overcoming non-financial challenges. So it might be, mental health, physical health, addiction, all sorts of different kind of challenges that people might go through on that side, maybe reconnecting with family, these sorts of things. But essentially, the common theme was also a financial barrier. And essentially, while I was doing that volunteering, I was thinking, if we could remove that barrier, that'd be really powerful for people being able to move forward. And then at the same time, I had in my mind that loads of people, friends, family, members of the general public wanted to help financially, wanted to be generous and wanted to help people move on, but they weren't quite sure how they could kind of help an individual to do so. So that's effectively where it came from, just thinking about, you got this untapped generosity and a huge demand for it and a huge need for it, and wanted to create a platform that kind of that addresses that.
And so, yes, so you got you had a fundraising campaign. I can't remember how much you raised. It was, and then you built the minimum viable product for the app, right? And then you incorporated as a company. A couple of years ago now, is it something like
that? So we raised on Oxreach in, I think, November 2017. We raised about £33,000, and then, as you say, we put together the kind of MVP of the app and the website. We supported the first 16 people as part of that kind of initial pilot. And of those 16 people, many of them were able to move forward out of homelessness. So some really kind of positive and encouraging initial results. So then we kind of took further social investment funding as a result of that to scale up kind of our operations. And we incorporated, I think it was I'm trying to remember the exact date, but I think it was March 2018. And we'd kind of pre-arranged the social investments, so took social investment on very shortly afterwards. And then through 2018 and 2019, we were just kind of trying to expand kind of what we were doing to more areas so we could support more people. And as of today, we've supported just under 200 people, with over 2/3 of those people moving on out of homelessness. So it's been been really powerful, and it's really exciting that now we're starting to kind of support significant numbers of people.
That's great news. And so, I mean, and are you now? So you're now based in London, aren't you? Is that right?
So with the pandemic, I'm actually in Yorkshire at the moment.
Yay!
But in normal times, yeah, the offices were in London and we were based in London. But for the next few months at least, we're fully remote.
And so, moving on to when the pandemic sort of eases, and what are your plans for the next year or two? I mean, what are you planning to do, and what help do you need to get there?
Yeah, so over the next year or two, we're really looking to start generating a small surplus. We are looking at kind of the business model, which is that we kind of sell what we're doing into local authorities, because we generate huge cost avoidance for local authorities. Because when we help people move on from homelessness, there's all sorts of costs that are avoided for that local authority. So we charge them a very small proportion of that cost. And essentially, if we scale up to a few more local authority areas, we'll then essentially be breaking even. So that's one of the kind of key challenges and targets, because once we get to that break-even stage, it kind of gets a lot more safety for the organization. We don't have to think about raising the next grant or the next social investment. We can fully focus on just the growth of the numbers of people we're supporting. So that's a kind of really exciting target for around kind of 18 months from now. Over the next 9 months, we're planning to take our kind of our last sort of social investment that gets us to that point. So that's another kind of target of the kind of midterm. We're also now at a point where we support about 20 people each month, and in around 2 years time we're aiming to support around 1,000 people each year, and in 3 to 4 years time we're aiming to scale that to around 5,000 people each year. So yeah, for us it's really about kind of creating that sustainable business model. I'd say we're well on the way there. We're kind of over half our costs are kind of generated as earned revenue, which is really exciting for quite a young social enterprise. But we're trying to push to kind of get to that break-even stage and increase the numbers of people we're supporting whilst maintaining the quality of the service. So I mentioned before that over 2/3 of the people we support are able to move on, and we really want to be able to maintain or improve that. So we don't want that to be kind of lost as we scale up numbers of people we're supporting more.
And how are you picking it off? Are you doing it regionally? Are you doing it by area, or is that how it works?
Yeah, so at the moment we kind of largely in areas around the southeast. So we're working in a couple of boroughs of London. Just started working in Essex, working down in Crawley, working in Oxford. So we're looking to predominantly at the moment work with more local authorities across the southeast. But also, in 6 to 12 months' time, also kind of expanding that more across the entire country.
Is it a model that would work outside the UK?
I think so. It's interesting because when we first sort of started, I think we were perhaps a bit naive about how fast we could do things and things like that. So we had a lot of people or quite a few people getting in touch and saying, I'd love to kind of launch this here. And we were kind of working with them on trying to help them kind of launch it in their area. And we were trying to support that kind of rollout. And it for kind of one reason or the other in each location, it never quite ended up happening. And I think what we learned from that is that actually, particularly with a kind of small team, you gotta have a lot of focus on what you can do and doing it really well. So we've kind of put that on pause for a while, and we're really focused on kind of England. But based on those conversations that we were having kind of a year or 2 years ago with different people, you got the same core factors in other countries. In pretty much every country there's homelessness, and pretty much everywhere around the world there's human kindness and generosity. So with those two things, I think you got the kind of core building blocks for what we're trying to do. The infrastructure and the kind of details of it might be slightly different in each location. But I'd say in general, yes, it's kind of something that's applicable right around the world.
Excellent. Okay, so the last question I'm going to ask you is, so where do you see it all in 5 years' time? Are you going to still be doing this 10 years' time? Have you devoted your whole life to this, or is it, you know, where do you say, you know, where do you say this is, I've done enough, or this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life? What are you trying to achieve?
Yeah, so we really want to be able to support 5,000 people every year out of homelessness. So that's kind of the core goal, and I'm kind of pretty totally set on doing it if it's like within kind of possibility. So yeah, I'd say I'm gonna kind of keep working on that and keep trying until we get there, or until we find out that actually it's not particularly possible. And I think in terms of like the organization and myself, I think it if it's at a point where someone else is kind of better placed to get it to that stage, or kind of, you know, wants to do that, and I'm kind of, you know, in a position to look at something else. I don't think I'm like attached to doing it for the next 10 years, only if you know, can hopefully keep adding value.
It's an awkward question to ask, and so well done for trying to answer it. I mean, I think what you're doing is absolutely fantastic, and it's and I'm glad to see it go from strength to strength, and I hope that this can further increase all the publicity that you've been getting so far, and very best of luck for the years to come.